The discovery. The void between stars stretched endlessly, a canvas of black dotted with distant pinpricks of light. Through this emptiness glided the Voshian exploration fleet, led by the imposing flagship Eternal Dominion. The ship's sleek, angular design reflected the Voshian philosophy, elegant efficiency hiding overwhelming power. Commander Kauris stood on the bridge, his four eyes scanning the tactical displays floating before him. His scaled skin shimmered under the blue glow of the monitors, the ceremonial markings of his rank etched into his exoskeleton. "Commander," called Lieutenant Nezik from her station. "We're detecting something unusual in Sector 7. Kauris turned, mandibles clicking with mild irritation. The Voshian Empire had conquered this region of space centuries ago. There should be nothing unusual here. "Specify unusual, Lieutenant," he ordered. Nezik adjusted her sensory apparatus, the delicate instruments extending from her cranial ridge pulsing with bioluminescent light. "It appears to be a vessel, sir, but it matches no known configuration in our databases." Kauris felt a ripple of interest. The Voshians had catalogued every spacefaring race in this sector of the galaxy. An unknown ship was intriguing. "Display," he commanded. The central holoprojector shimmered to life, revealing a massive warship drifting in the void. Unlike the organic curves and symmetry of Voshian design, this vessel was all hard angles and utilitarian shapes. Its dark hull was pockmarked with impact craters and radiation burns, telling the tale of ancient battles. Most striking were the massive weapon emplacements that lined its frame, brutal, unsubtle, and terrifyingly effective. "How old is this vessel?" Kauris asked. Science Officer Thraxis consulted her readings. "Initial scans suggest approximately 800 cycles, Commander." 800 cycles, before the Voshian Empire had even achieved interstellar travel, before they had conquered their first alien world. This was a relic from a forgotten age. "Life signs?" Kauris inquired. "None detected," Nezik responded. "However, there are unusual energy signatures emanating from the core. The ship appears to be in a dormant state, but not completely inactive." Kauris's interest deepened into curiosity. "Prepare a detailed scan. I want to know what we're dealing with." The fleet repositioned, surrounding the mysterious vessel at a safe distance. The Eternal Dominion deployed its scanning arrays, bathing the ancient warship in invisible waves of energy and data-gathering particles. As the scan penetrated the ship's outer hull, something unexpected happened. Lights, dim and flickering, began to illuminate across the derelict vessel's surface. "Commander," Thraxis called out, alarm evident in her voice. "The ship is activating." "Impossible," Kauris muttered. Nothing could remain operational after so long. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The ancient warship was awakening, responding to their scans as if they had triggered some long-dormant defense system. "Cease scanning immediately," Kauris ordered, but it was too late. A wave of energy pulsed from the vessel, washing over the Voshian fleet. It wasn't destructive, merely informational. The warship was scanning them in return. "Fascinating," Thraxis whispered, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "This technology, it's responding intelligently to our presence." Kauris felt unease creeping along his spine. "Can you identify the origin? What species built this?" Thraxis hesitated, an unusual reaction for the typically confident science officer. The configuration and material composition, they matched historical records of human vessels. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Humans, a species thought to be extinct for centuries, wiped out in the third expansion, when the Graxis Confederation had bombarded their homeworld into a lifeless rock. The Voshians had only encountered humans in historical archives, a primitive, short-lived species notable only for their unusual adaptability and inexplicable knack for warfare. "That's impossible," Kauris said finally. "Humans have been extinct for 500 cycles. The evidence suggests otherwise, Commander," Thraxis replied. "Or at least their technology has endured." A new alert sounded from Nezek's station. "Commander, we're detecting a signal being transmitted from the vessel. It's directed toward the Cygnus arm." "Intercept it," Calrus ordered. "I cannot," Nezek admitted. "The encryption is unlike anything in our systems." Calrus made a decision. "Prepare a boarding party. We need to access that ship's databases directly." "Sir," his second-in-command Ravik interjected, "with all due respect, disturbing a human warship may be unwise. Historical records indicate—" "I'm familiar with the records," Ravik, Calrus interrupted. "But those accounts are from our enemies and likely exaggerated. Besides, this is an ancient derelict. Whatever danger humans once posed died with them centuries ago." The boarding shuttle departed the Eternal Dominion, approaching the massive human vessel with caution. As they drew closer, the true scale of the warship became apparent. It dwarfed even the Voshian flagship, its weapon systems numerous enough to challenge an entire fleet. Inside the shuttle, Elite Guard Captain Maxis addressed her team. "Remember, we're here to gather information, not to engage. This technology is ancient but potentially still dangerous." The shuttle docked with surprising ease, as if the human vessel had anticipated their arrival and accommodated them. The airlock cycled, and the Voshian boarding party entered the ship. The interior was dark, illuminated only by the boarding party's lights and the occasional flickering glow from partially functional systems. The architecture was strange, built for beings with completely different physiologies and cultural priorities. Where Voshian ships featured open spaces and organic designs, this vessel was compartmentalized, pragmatic, and defensible. Every junction could become a choke point. Every corridor could be sealed and isolated. This wasn't just a warship, Maxis observed. It was designed to continue fighting even when partially destroyed. The team made their way toward what their scans indicated was the command center. As they progressed deeper into the ship, more systems activated around them, responding to their presence. Lights strengthened, and the ambient temperature rose slightly as life support systems engage. "It's like the ship is waking up," one of the guards murmured. They finally reached the bridge, a surprisingly compact space compared to Voshian command centers. Here, the design philosophy became clear. Humans had built their ships not for comfort or status, but purely for war. Thraxis approached what appeared to be the main computer terminal. Fascinating. Their computer interfaces are rudimentary, but remarkably resilient. The screen before her flickered to life, displaying symbols in an ancient human language. The Voshian translation software struggled briefly before rendering the text comprehensible. "CNSVDVINC," Thraxis read aloud. "Confederation Naval Space Vessel, apparently." This was a human military ship. As Thraxis worked to access the ship's databases, Maxis explored the bridge, her attention drawn to a sealed door at the rear. Unlike the other entrances, this one remained locked despite the ship's awakening systems. "I believe I've accessed their historical records," Thraxis announced. According to this, the ship was part of something called the Last Fleet, a final defensive measure after the fall of Earth. The data scrolled across her screen, painting a very different picture than the one in Voshian historical archives. The humans hadn't been eradicated in the Graxis bombardment. A significant population had escaped, scattered across hidden colonies. The Last Fleet had been their guardians, ensuring the survival of the species. Meanwhile, Maxis had become increasingly curious about the sealed door. "Thraxis, can you access the controls for this compartment?" The science officer joined her, studying the door's security system. "It appears to be a protected area, operating on an isolated power system. I might be able to." She was interrupted by a sudden change in the ship's behavior. Lights brightened to full intensity, and a low hum resonated through the deck plates as dormant systems fully activated. On the main screen, new text appeared. "Proximity ALERT. Unknown vessels DTTTD. Defense protocols INITID. We need to return to the shuttle immediately," Maxis ordered. As the boarding party rushed back through the corridors, the ship around them transformed. Sealed compartments opened, revealing automated defense systems. Weapon emplacements emerged from hidden recesses in the walls. "Commander," Maxis called over the comlink, "the human vessel is activating its defense systems. We're evacuating now." Back on the Eternal Dominion, Calrus watched with growing concern as the ancient human warship came fully to life. What had appeared to be weapon scars on its hull sealed themselves as self-repair systems engage. The massive cannon emplacements began to rotate, tracking the positions of the Voshian vessels. "Impossible," Calrus whispered. "Technology this old shouldn't be functional, let alone this advanced." "Commander," Nezik called out, "the signal the ship was transmitting, it's received a response." Before Calrus could respond, space itself seemed to shudder. At the edge of their sensor range, multiple distortions appeared, the unmistakable signature of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. "New contacts," Ravik reported, voice tight with tension. "Configuration unknown, but they matched the design parameters of the derelict." Calrus stared at the tactical display in disbelief. More human ships. Not ancient derelicts, but vessels at the peak of operational capability. Humans weren't extinct. They had hidden, rebuilt, and now returned. And the Voshian fleet had just awakened their advanced scout. First contact. Commander Calrus stared at the tactical display with mounting dread. The situation had deteriorated faster than he could have imagined. What had begun as a routine exploration mission had become a potential first contact scenario, with a species thought extinct for centuries, a species known historically for its unpredictability and martial prowess. "Status of the boarding party," he demanded. "They've reached the shuttle, Commander," Ravik replied. "Launching now." On the screen, the tiny shuttle detached from the massive human warship, accelerating back toward the Eternal Dominion. As it did, the ancient vessel's weapon systems continued their activation sequence, power readings climbing steadily. "The new arrivals?" Calrus asked. 7 vessels, Commander, holding position at the edge of the system. They've made no aggressive moves, but their weapon systems are active and tracking our fleet." Calrus considered his options. The Voshian fleet consisted of 3 combat-capable vessels, formidable by any standard, but potentially outmatched if human military technology had continued advancing during their centuries of isolation. The boarding shuttle docked with the flagship, and moments later, Captain Maxis and Science Officer Thraxis rushed onto the bridge. "Report," Calrus ordered. "Commander," Thraxis began, her voice uncharacteristically excited. "The vessel is the CNSV Defiance, a human military vessel that served as part of their last fleet following the fall of their homeworld. But the historical records we accessed paint a very different picture than our archives." "How so?" Calrus asked. "The humans weren't eradicated as we believed. They scattered to colony worlds beyond the reach of the Graxis Confederation. This ship was part of their defensive line, a guardian keeping watch while their civilization rebuilt." Calrus processed this information with growing concern. "And now more have arrived. The question is, are they here for peaceful contact or retribution?" "Sir," Nezik interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the Defiance." "On screen," Calrus ordered. The main display flickered, but instead of a face, it showed only a text message in translated Voshian script. "Stand down your weapons. Prepare to receive in envoy." "They're sending someone to negotiate," Ravik asked incredulously. Before anyone could respond, new alerts sounded. "Energy spike from the Defiance," reported Nezik. "Something's happening in their central compartment, the one our boarding party couldn't access." On the tactical display, they watched as a small section of the human warship opened, revealing what appeared to be a long-dormant launch bay. A tiny craft emerged, heading directly toward the Eternal Dominion. "Intercept it," Calrus ordered. "Sir," Ravik cautioned, "the human vessels at the system edge have adjusted their positions. They're clearly prepared to intervene if we take hostile action. Caloris felt trapped. Military protocol demanded security, but diplomatic necessity required restraint. Allow the craft to approach. Prepare security teams in the docking bay. But no overt hostile actions. Minutes later, the strange craft docked with the Eternal Dominion. It was unlike any shuttle the Voshians had encountered, angular, utilitarian, and radiating an unusual energy signature that their sensors struggled to classify. Caloris left the bridge, accompanied by Thraxis and a security detail. They arrived at the docking bay as the airlock cycled open. A single figure emerged from the shuttle, bipedal, clothed in a form-fitting suit of charcoal gray material that seemed to shift and adjust with each movement. The being's face was concealed behind a reflective visor, revealing nothing of the creature beneath. Human, it had to be. But something was wrong. According to historical records, humans were fragile, soft-skinned creatures. This being moved with fluid precision that suggested something more. The figure reached up, touching the side of its helmet. With a soft hiss, the visor retracted, revealing a face that matched historical images of humans, but with subtle differences. The skin was too perfect, the eyes too alert for a primitive species. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Confederation. The being spoke in flawless Voshian, its voice modulated and calm. You have awakened one of our sentinel vessels. Explain your intentions. Caloris recovered from his surprise quickly. I am Commander Caloris of the Voshian Exploration Fleet. We discovered what appeared to be an abandoned vessel and investigated as per standard protocol. We had no hostile intent. The human's expression remained neutral. Your species is unknown to us, Commander Caloris. Our records show no prior contact with Voshians. This surprised Caloris. The Voshian Empire has ruled this sector for 300 cycles. How could you not know of us? We have been elsewhere, Commander Chen replied cryptically. The Defiance was left here 800 years ago as a warning system. When you activated it, we came to investigate. Thraxis stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. Historical records indicate that humans were extinct, destroyed by the Graxis Confederation. A slight smile appeared on Chen's face. The Graxis believed they had eliminated us. Yes, they destroyed our homeworld and celebrated their victory. We allowed that belief to persist while we rebuilt. Rebuilt where? Caloris asked. Beyond the reach of those who sought our extinction, Chen replied. We found new worlds, adapted, evolved. The humans you think you know from historical records are not the humans we have become. There was something in her tone, not quite a threat, but a statement of fact that carried weight. And now you've returned, Caloris observed. We never truly left, Chen corrected. We merely stepped back to recover our strength. The Defiance and other Sentinel vessels have watched this sector for centuries, dormant but vigilant. A troubling thought occurred to Caloris. How many of these Sentinel vessels are there? Chen's smile widened slightly. Enough. The implication was clear. Human presence in the galaxy was far more extensive than anyone had realized. What happens now? Caloris asked. That depends on you, Commander, Chen replied. The Voshian Empire is unknown to us. We need to understand your civilization, your intentions, your history. And if we refuse? Chen's expression hardened slightly. That would be unwise. The fleet you see at the edge of this system is merely a diplomatic detachment. We have survived extinction once, Commander. We do not intend to face that threat again. Caloris recognized the delicate position he was in. This wasn't a first contact with a primitive species. This was a reunion with a civilization that had used its presumed extinction as cover to evolve beyond recognition. I am not authorized to negotiate on behalf of the Empire, Caloris stated, but I can establish initial diplomatic protocols and communicate your arrival to our leadership. Chen nodded. Acceptable. But be aware, Commander, we will be monitoring these communications. Centuries of hiding have made us cautious. As if to emphasize her point, the lights on the Eternal Dominion flickered briefly. Your systems are already compromised, Cowris realized. Let's call it a precaution, Chen replied. Your technology is impressive, but different from what we've encountered. It took several minutes to interface completely. Several minutes to hack the most advanced Voshian systems. Cowris felt a chill run down his spine. What had humanity become during its centuries of isolation? There is much you should know about us, Chen continued, her tone softening slightly, and much we wish to learn about the galaxy in our absence. The Graxis Confederation, do they still exist? They were absorbed by the Voshian Empire 200 cycles ago, Cowris replied. Their worlds are now Voshian protectorates. A complex emotion flickered across Chen's face. Satisfaction, perhaps, or vindication. Interesting. And what of their client races? The Xorillian, the Praxid? All part of the Empire now. Some willingly, others less so. Chen nodded thoughtfully. History has its ironies, Commander. The species that tried to exterminate us is gone, while we endure. Thraxis, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. Your technology. It's beyond anything in our records. Even this Sentinel vessel possesses systems we cannot fully comprehend. Necessity, Chen replied simply. When your entire species faces extinction, innovation accelerates dramatically. We had to become more than we were to survive. A new alert sounded, and Cowris received a message from the bridge. Commander, Ravik reported, the human fleet is transmitting data packets to the Sentinel vessel. Massive information transfer in progress. They're updating the Defiance, Chen explained. 800 years is a long time, even for our technology. And then? Cowris asked. And then we begin formal diplomatic contact. The Human Confederation wishes to reestablish its place in galactic affairs. Peacefully, if possible. The unspoken threat hung in the air between them. Humanity preferred peace, but they were prepared for alternatives. Caloris made a decision. I will contact the Imperial Council immediately. This meeting changes everything we thought we knew about galactic history. Indeed it does, Commander, Chen agreed. For both our peoples, you awakened one of our sentinels expecting to find an ancient relic. Instead, you've rediscovered a civilization that has spent centuries preparing for this moment. As if on cue, the distant human vessels began to move, taking up formation around the Defiance. Their movements were precise, coordinated with an efficiency that impressed even Cowris's military mind. One question, Commander Chen, Cowris said. Why reveal yourselves now? If your sentinel detected our approach, you could have kept it dormant and maintained your secrecy. Chen's expression became unreadable. Let's just say the time was right. The galaxy is changing, Commander. New threats are emerging beyond the borders of your empire. Threats that neither humans nor Voshians can face alone. What threats? Cowris demanded. Chen glanced at the chronometer on her wrist. That's a discussion for another time. For now, we establish diplomatic protocols and prepare your leadership for a significant adjustment to their understanding of the galactic balance of power. As Cowris escorted Commander Chen to the conference room, he couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just become a much more complicated place. The humans hadn't just survived, they had thrived, evolved, and now returned with capabilities that defied Voshian understanding. And they spoke of threats beyond the Empire's borders, threats serious enough to bring a hidden civilization out of the shadows. The Voshian Empire's undisputed dominance of this sector of space had ended the moment they had scanned that human warship. What would take its place remained to be seen.